If you are the parent of a sophomore or junior, or you are a sophomore or junior, you may have taken the PSAT exam in October. And if so, that means that you have likely gotten your test scores back recently. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what the PSAT is, what you can do as far as understanding your scores, knowing how those scores will impact you in the future, and giving you a couple of extra hints and tips. So let's get started. Hey there, I'm Courtney. I am the founder of Confused to Ready, and I am super excited to spend time with you again. If you are someone who has a junior or sophomore, then they likely have taken the PSAT recently. And if you are the parent of a freshman, this is still going to be a helpful episode because we're going to talk about something that will be impacting you. And I just want to make sure that you have all of the information possible to better understand what the PSAT is, why it is helpful to take it, and also what you need to know about your scores. If you are listening to this and it is not in real time, but you know that your student is going to have the opportunity to take the PSAT, then go ahead and stay tuned because this is going to have good information for you as well. So first, let's talk about what the PSAT is. So a couple things that I want to differentiate. When we are talking about the PSAT, so that is an exam that is made and administered by a college board. Schools will administer that test. So there's two different potential tests. One is the PSAT 8-9, which is for 8th and 9th grade students. There may not be as many schools that are offering that test. The one that our sophomores and our juniors are going to take is the PSAT/NMSQT. And so the PSAT is intended to be a preliminary SAT exam. It is going to have questions that might be similar to what students will take on the SAT, which is what they will, a standardized test that they will submit to their colleges as part of their application. And if you have questions about test optional and if students need to test, that is something that you can watch some of our other, listen to some of our other episodes where we've talked about that. But the NMSQT, the PSAT NMSQT is the test that we're really going to talk about today, because that is the test where our sophomores and juniors are being assessed on their skills and how they do, and it also helps you know what next steps you should be taking to study to prepare for the SAT. So a couple different things with the PSAT and NMSQT. Like I said, it is really, really good helpful for students to know what to study. Our students that are juniors and taking this test, if they score high enough, the other thing that can happen is they actually can qualify to be considered a National Merit Scholarship semifinalist and be part of that National Merit Scholarship program. So if they score high enough, they're invited to complete an application and letters of recommendation. That's a different podcast for another day. But in your student's junior year, it is important that they go ahead and take that test if they are considering going to a four-year college. Some colleges will even give some pretty significant merit money, even if a student doesn't receive that National Merit Scholarship program. If they qualify, they will give students some pretty significant money. So 100% worth it for students to go into this PSAT, NMSQT, and do their absolute best. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what all is included on that PSAT. So there are two different sections on the PSAT and NMSQT. There is the math section, and then there is the evidence-based reading and writing section. Within both of those sections, there are two different parts. So the first part is going to have easy, medium, and hard questions. And the test is adaptive, which means that it's digital, it's on a computer. And it means that the system is going to look at whether a student answered those questions correctly or incorrectly. and it's going to decide if a student should be moved to a harder section for the second section or an easier section. And so that is something that is really, really helpful for students to know as they go into it, that there are two different sections, math and the evidence-based reading and writing. But within those sections, there are two mini sections. So it is going to be a test that is going to take some time. It's going to be several hours for students. Now, as far as scoring goes, the math section has a score between 160 and 760 points, as well as the evidence-based reading and writing having a score between 160 and 760 points. So students, when they get their total cumulative score on that PSAT, it's going to be between 320 and 1,520 as the maximum for their score. When you receive your score report, you're going to have sub-scores. It's going to look at student strengths and areas for improvement. And if you're getting ready to go in and take the PSAT, or if you will be taking it at some point in the future, here is a bonus tip. That PSAT, you're not going to be penalized for a wrong answer. So even if students get to the end of the time that's allotted and they still have 10 questions to go, it is 100% worth it for them to guess on the rest of those questions, because they may get some right. They're not going to be penalized for getting anything wrong. And it's better to try and get a couple more right than to leave that, to leave them blank and not get anything. So when you receive your score report, you're going to see your cumulative score between that 320 and the 1520. You're going to see your individual section scores, and then you're going to see sub-scores beyond that. And so one of the things that it helps you do when you receive these scores back is it can help you know how prepared you might be to go in and take the SAT. And that SAT is something that helps colleges. It's a college ready indicator, and how students do on and score on that test can help colleges know how prepared they are going to be. So a higher score on the PSAT might mean that students are going to do better on the SAT. A higher score on the SAT can mean that students might do better on be more college ready, and colleges have the potential to look more favorably on their application. And like I said, there's the National Merit Scholarship, as well as some colleges giving out a lot of different potential scholarships just by students qualifying for the program in general, even if they aren't considered a finalist. So if you have not listened to some of the other episodes where we've talked about colleges having a variety of different factors and different things that they are interested in looking at, please go listen to some of our other episodes. That's something that I've talked quite a bit about this summer and into the fall. And I think being able to be well-rounded as an applicant is super important. So once students have those test scores, what is it that you can do with it, and how can you use the scores to know what to study and prepare? So like I said, you're going to have a very detailed score report. It's going to look at your overall score, your scores on the individual sections, and then even break that down even farther. So when you are looking at the scores, you're going to see these are the areas that were your strengths. And then these were some of the areas that maybe were a little bit more challenging or difficult for your student. And so that can help students know where to study as they are preparing for that SAT. Now, so let's say that you do really, really well in English, and your English score is pretty strong across the board, but your math score was not quite as high as you thought that you wanted it to be. Now, if a student hasn't had Algebra 2, that makes sense, because that Algebra 2 is going to be what a lot of your tests are, what the test is covering. It will cover up through Algebra 2. And then when you are looking at your scores, so maybe trigonometry was a little bit more of a struggle, but a student did well with geometry and they did well with the algebra portions. So that helps the student know, okay, as I'm studying, I really need to spend some time looking at these math concepts, looking at the trigonometry portion, and how they really want to to dial in on that to be able to raise your scores for the next time. The other thing that you can figure out is when you look at how well a student has done in a particular section, that can help you know what, this is something that I do well at. There might be some courses in my high school that would be worth me taking and considering being able to complete some of that coursework because of how well I did on that PSAT. So when we look at how to be able to study, sometimes students will say, okay, well, what do I need to do and how do I study? And is there anything that's free? Is there anything that I need to do to be able to study? And do we have to pay a ton of money to be able to get some study tips? And the good news is there are multiple free resources that are available to students. So one of the places that is honestly one of my top recommendations for students would be Khan Academy. And sometimes students will say, oh my gosh, I don't like Khan Academy because they remember what they had to do in elementary school or middle school when they had to use it. I will say Khan Academy is the one company for test prep that has an official partnership with College Board. And because that is an official partnership, it is going to be very specifically tailored to, and there's going to be a lot of collaboration to make sure that what Khan Academy is giving students to study is going to be what will be on that SAT or PSAT test. And so Khan Academy even has some SAT prep that students can do where they are able to log in. They are able to actually say, okay, this is what I'm studying. This is going to help me with preparing for my Algebra 2 or the trigonometry or whatever the topic is. And they can actually even earn badges. So it can kind of be like a game, a little bit of an incentive for students to complete that work and know that they are going to be able to study and be better prepared for the test. Here is another bonus tip for those of you that are not aware. College Board, who makes the PSAT, SAT, AP exams, they actually have Big Future, which is their scholarship search engine. They have career searches, college searches. They have a scholarship opportunity. And so in students' end of sophomore year through their senior year, if students complete different tasks like studying for the SAT, they will actually be entered into a drawing to win a scholarship. And that is something that is 100% worth it. So not only are you raising your scores, you have the opportunity to also win a scholarship by doing some of those things. There are also might be different resources in your local library that you can access to be able to say, okay, here are some of the things that I am struggling with, and maybe there is a book that you can check out from the library that has some of those free resources. There might be different apps or games that you can find. If you are just searching for something online, I will say make sure that it is a legitimate website. Don't just go to something that another student made. You want to make sure that it is legitimate and that you are getting the correct information about how to study. And sometimes with these tests, really a lot of it truly is about how to study and about how to know what's coming in the questions, how you should know what the makers of the test are looking for when they ask a question in a certain way. And that can help just as much as understanding that content. So I would also say when you are studying, make sure that you have a quiet place to be able to study. Make sure that you are setting time aside, that you are eliminating distractions. And also just come up with a plan of what it is that you want to do to prepare, and come up with, if you have 4 weeks, do some Google searches of, what to study with 4 weeks left for the SAT. Or if you have 6 weeks or 8 weeks. So do a Google search to find out about a specific study plan. And I hope that this has been some helpful information. Your PSAT scores, it is definitely something that can help students as you are preparing for your SAT, as you're preparing for college, and to be able to know where to focus your time. Now, I want to give you all a sneak peek about some things that are coming. This episode is coming out about 9 days before Black Friday, but I am planning to have some Black Friday specials to be able to help our students, and particularly our 9th, 10th, and 11th graders as you are preparing for the college search. And then for our 12th graders, I also have some specials that are coming for students that need some support, that maybe you don't have your applications in yet. You haven't submitted those and you just want some help with reviewing all of that information. So keep an eye out on social media for that information. If you are not already on my email list, it's going to come out through that email list as well. If you're not on that email list, please, you can download a copy of our free guide of 10 mistakes that you might be making in the college search process, and then you can get added to that email list to be some of the first to find out what those specials are going to be next week. And you can find that by going to confusetoready.com/10 mistakes. So I look forward to chatting with you all again soon. Take care and have a fantastic day. Bye.